All right, phenomenal morning, guys. Listen, I am your host, Shaan and welcome back to the Breakfast with the Brand. I am flanked by the phenomenal Travis Klein this morning. So listen, guys, for the last 2 days, I've left you in the reliable hands, the trustworthy hands, the leadership hands of two of my lieutenants, Bobby Jackson, CFO. I think he did a phenomenal job. And then Travis Klein as well. Travis, it was your first time. Well, no, not first, but second and third time on the Breakfast with the Brand. What was your experience, brother? I heard you did a phenomenal job, man. I might have to change the intro.
It has been a one-of-a-kind experience. I'm extremely grateful for it because it's living up to everything that the coaching and the program is all about. So being able to come out of my own shell and be what you call the BKS, I'm just thoroughly appreciative of it so that I can actually serve the community instead of just keeping what I have to myself.
Very good, very good. So we got some really good feedback, man. I got some rave reviews. I said this guy is knocking it out of the park in the very beginning, right? So that's good, man. It's a testimony to the coachability. It's a testimony to what happens when you take a person down to the deep end, right, guys? So I always tell people, just put your hands in your pockets. Don't worry about it. Trust the process. Come walk with me down to the deep end. You're gonna learn how to swim today. Right? So that's kind of what you've seen in action, right? I'm the kind of coach that puts you in the game, right? I put you in the game with no training wheels. I promise you, I was not in the background. I was somewhere on a plane. I couldn't even help if I wanted to, right? And I think these guys did a phenomenal job. So go ahead, put in the comments what your thoughts were as far as the phenomenal. Yes, took care of the baby. Okay, Lawana, phenomenal morning. Jordan, phenomenal morning. Shade, phenomenal morning. Listen, guys, we are again, as always, live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, Twitter, X, whatever they call it. We're there, right? The question is, where are you this phenomenal morning? And I want you to think about that before we go to the break. Where are you really at? Like, if I had to ask you, what were your coordinates? Would you be able to give me your coordinates? And the reason why I say that is this. We all have goals. We all have places that we're trying to go. This is the fourth quarter, guys. So everybody's crushing, everybody's rushing to get to the goal, get where they're at, where they want to be. But this is the thing. If you don't know exactly where you are, if you're not accurate, if you're not 100% reliably sufficient and confirmed with what your coordinates are in the present, it doesn't make a difference what you do, because wherever you try to go, you're going to be wrong. You're going to be wrong because you're inaccurately assessing your situation right now. So I want you to just be honest with yourself. Be honest, like be vulnerable, be transparent. What do they say? You can lie to everybody else, but you can't lie to yourself. Where are you really at in your business, in your health, in your relationships, in your competencies, in the core competencies that are going to make you successful in your life and in your business? That's what I want you to think about before we come back from this break. Accurate assessment. Where are you really at? Not where you want to be, not where you hope you would be, not where you hope you were, but where you really, really are. Travis, that's what we're going to come back to when we come back. And I want to know how that relates to stocks and trading and the financial movement and the instrumentation, accurate assessments, knowing exactly where you are, your coordinates, your instrumentation. We'll be right back. This is The Breakfast with the Brand. It's very important that you know yourself to the highest degree possible, because it's through knowing ourselves that we're able to know other people. You are the most important person in the room, and the better that you know yourself, the better that you're able to communicate to others. So you're not only playing the game knowing who you are, but you're also playing the game knowing who everyone else is, so that you're not playing blind.
He's extremely engaging with people. He has a fantastic smile, and he's just a very high energy person.
This is called leadership development. So we have to be independently knowledgeable and considerate to know who we are, so we can more effectively know who other people are. As the leader, it's your responsibility to allocate resources in the right places. If you don't know how to communicate effectively, you're losing the battle. I said Shaan East. I'm proud. I said Shaan East. Leadership is not the brand they made for us.
Listen, he brought fire, heat. He didn't hold back.
20 years down the line, what I could sell, why not serve first? Service over salary. Branding like a leader closes the gap for people who want branding. Speaking like a leader closes the gap for people who are nervous about speaking. If Steve Jobs would have speculated, we wouldn't have Apple.
He changed lives. He helped people open up their business and start their business.
We are the brand. Some people say, Shaan, should I quit my job? Mentally, yes.
As a speaker too, to be able to learn from him and watch him and you know, game respects game. And I want to have that much game someday.
The right client, pay $500,000 for what you do. You have to be bold in your beliefs.
He has been an amazing asset to this event and a pleasure to work with. Very captivating, collaborative, worked very well with the audience.
I want to help you. Put a 0 behind your number, right?
The session was great. How he is online, virtually, he is even more phenomenal in person.
Be the face of change that you want to see. Stop asking questions and start giving demands.
The entire team has just been absolutely incredible. They are a joy to work with. They go above and beyond.
Give yourself a round of applause. Yes. Confidence is key. Most of the people I work with, they have the education, the experience, and the expertise. We call those the 3 E's. But they're looking for the 3 I's, the income, the impact, and the independence. And I always tell them that the bridge between the 3 E's and the 3 I's is marrying your confidence to your competence. Most of the people I work with, again, have all of the competence in the world. What I help them do is get the confidence. Right. The confidence piece, right? Some people are inaccurately assessing their confidence. But let's talk about it. Let's dig into it. Let's dissect it. Let's put it under the microscope. Travis, in your experiences with trading, financial instrumentation, and the moving of numbers, how important is it for you to accurately assess where you are?
Man, this is literally step number 1. I mean, when we think of the baby, you know, beginning to walk, these are your first steps in trading. And unfortunately is something that's not given the amount of weight that it deserves. So in doing that, naturally, as you alluded to in the beginning about having coordinates, trading is no different. Coming into that, we're going to want to have that game plan. You're going to want to have that strategy. Coming up with the bare essentials of things like where you're looking to go, how soon you're looking to get there, and how much of a risk are you willing to take to get there are all very real components in trading. However, unfortunately, they're the parts that most novice traders like to overlook.
Okay. So I did listen in a couple times during you and Bobby's back and forth, the repartee during the last 2 days. And one of the things that I heard was former businesses and losses, right? So I heard about former businesses and losses, some good business, some nice amounts of revenue, and then losses kind of like tank out, right? I want to know if inaccurate assessment had anything to do with that.
Absolutely, inaccurate assessment had to do with it. If we go back to that prior example, I want to say that was maybe 2 episodes ago when we talked about the 7 figures. That was definitely an inaccurate assessment. though the initial course was plotted, what the mistake was not making sure of, as you say, looking at my current set of coordinates as I was going along the way. So the initial part of the journey was fine, it was on course. However, somewhere in between, in the middle, I had gone off track at that time, and that cost me dearly by not keeping a proper assessment of those coordinates in that particular business venture.
Very good. So what I'm hearing is, of course, the importance of accurate assessment of where you are. And the reason why I asked Travis that question is because it relates to business, guys. Investing relates to business. When you go into business, you're investing your time, you're risking your future in business. And if you inaccurately assess, which a lot of people do, they're what we call hopefuls, hopeful optimistics, right? Travis, hopeful optimistics. They have the pasture, the grass is always greener on the other side, right? So they're an employee, they're locked in, they're making 70, 80K a year. And they look over at some of us and they're like, wow, these guys make 70, $80,000 a month. Or on a really good day, the grass sure looks greener over there. So they jump in, inaccurately assessing what part of the water they're jumping into, and there's sharks in the water. There's sharks in the water because they inaccurately assessed. They went all in with no measurements, no right coordination, and no right coordinates. And then they wonder why 8 months have passed and they haven't seen a drip, right? They haven't seen a drip, or like you alluded to, they come off the diving board with a beautiful swan dive. Beautiful swan dive. They hit the water. They go in like the sleight of hand. You don't even see them hit the water. It was like magic. It's like they just disappeared. Really great, phenomenal dive into the water. But as you're looking for them to come up, they don't. They don't. They were so sweet on the dive that they went straight to the bottom and boom, bust their head. Right. And I'm remembering the Olympics recently where a diving coach had to jump in and save the young lady and bring her to the top because she hit the water so sweetly. She went straight to the bottom, went smashing to the bottom of the floor, and somebody had to dive in to save them. Right. So listen, guys, before you have to be saved, before someone has to get you, it is very important that you accurately assess where you are. And I'll give you one more example. Plane takes off. Plane takes off in LA headed for New York. Problem is, they thought they were in Chicago. Now, if they're in California headed to New York, they would have got there. But because they started off in Chicago and accurately assessing that it was that it was California, they actually end up somewhere in the middle of the Atlantic. This is a real situation in business. Very, very crucial situation in business. I tell people all the time that hope is not a strategy. Hope is not a strategy. Hope, faith, optimism, these are phenomenal tools to have, but they are not strategies in business. If you are not converting, if there's a gap in your business when it comes to attraction and conversion, then I need you to understand something. You have a hole in the bottom of the bucket. And we're going to go to Travis for a minute because I think this is the same thing in trading, but watch this. In business, if you've got holes in the bottom of the bucket, it doesn't make a difference how much water you pour into it. What are your thoughts on that, Travis? If you got the wrong investment strategy, if you got the wrong coordinates, if you got a failing hand, but you continue to pour money into it, what's going to happen?
I mean, in this case, this water is, you got to look at it as being in the desert. you're in the desert with this water. So you don't even know when the
Mhm.
next time you're going to gain access to it, or you're going to luck up and stumble upon an oasis. So if we're looking at this water as a finite resource, as your what's going to continue to give your body life, very much so in the world of trading, pouring into a bucket like that, it can be life altering, to say the very least. Because as far as statistics go, now each platform is going to have different statistics, whether it's like an eToro or a TD Ameritrade, so on and so forth. There's many brokers out there. When it comes down to the facts, the lowest percentage I've seen for novice traders that are getting into investments, the lowest number, I want to enunciate that, the lowest number or lowest percentage is 80%. 80% that come into the financial world and have no type of, as we say, like coordinates, or in this instance, coaching and coordinates. They're grouped together. If they come into this world without either of those, the likelihood of them losing their entire investment on the small end, this is the smallest I've seen, is 80%. So 80% are pouring water into that bucket, and it has a ginormous hole in the bottom, and it's just going into the sand.
So there's a word that comes to my mind when hearing about this ginormous hole, right? I tell people all the time the difference between businesses standing and businesses lasting and having the wrong assessments in where you begin is sustainability. Sustainability. See, it's easy for rich kids to come in and waste money because mommy and daddy got a slush fund and the money never runs out. So they can play games all they want. And they can do all the things that don't make any sense whatsoever. And they can waste money on all kinds of campaigns and marketing and ads. And you see things that don't get any clicks, don't get any results, and they're just always present. And because you want to do the same thing and you see that they have some success, you're like, well, I can do the same thing as a small business. The problem is you don't have the infinite level of resources that these people do. You have a finite amount of resources, and you need to leverage your leadership in a way that will get you the highest yield on your investment, because you not only have a finite limitation on the revenue, but you also have a finite limitation on time. How much time are you going to, how many years can you devote to making a mess and being wasteful? Very important to accurately assess these things. I put a couple statistics in the chat real quick about businesses surviving their first year, second year, third year, and fifth year, right? But I want to ask you, in trading, in money manipulation in the marketplace, what are the statistics? What are the survival rates?
They're dismal. That first, I mean, that's what that 80% pertain to, and that's on the low end. Um, when I began this year pulling up that same statistic, it was actually 99%. So 80% is, that's why I said 80% is the lowest I've seen. And that was specifically on, like I said, on a specific platform. I don't want to name which platform that was. However, 80% was them being lenient. 99% is what it had gone up to after the pandemic. Pre-pandemic, it was already high at 95%. So that first year survival rate, it's only, depending on the statistics, at best only 20% are surviving in that arena.
First year. Oh man. So, and I always liken my analogies to boxing. right? Pivoting, being able to pivot, being able to pirouette, being able to parry, right? And let me tell you something. In boxing, if you inaccurately assess which direction the punch is coming from or what foot you should be leaning on, somebody's gonna be waking you up with smelling salts. Right? Someone's gonna be waking you up with smelling salts. And let me give you the example of a phenomenal record. You can spend 20 years building a phenomenal record in boxing, in business, in your investments. It only takes one wrong move. You should write that down. One wrong move. It only takes one wrong move to undo in 2 minutes what it took 20 years for you to create in life, in business, in trading. There is such a thing as the unforgivable. I just want you to understand this. I just want you to understand. Look at Mayweather, 50-0. Imagine, just imagine what that one loss would do to an unblemished record. It's over. One wrong move, and it's all over. So the ability to accurately assess on the fly in the middle of battle is life and death. It's life and death. Listen, now, and I know Travis can speak to this. I'll speak to this in business and in relationships. Emotions are real. Emotions are a real thing, right? Sometimes my wife will say something to me and I'll be like, there'll be a part of me, the Harlem part, that feels like snapping back, right? How they say clap back. She'll say something to me real quick, usually when I'm driving, because I drive a specific kind of way. And it'll be like, hold on. And I feel like saying something, but then I have to catch myself because I have to accurately assess. Hold on now. My wife saved my life. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my wife. My wife was my first coach. She slowed me down so that I could speed up. She pulled me back so that I could move forward. Right? So I have to accurately assess in business. In business, sometimes we have interesting situations. Interesting situations, it might be interesting clients. It might be interesting seasons. And the season will shift, or something will take place, or you'll get a text and you'll feel like going back for it, or, going back to get them. And it's like, hold on. Sometimes you have to stop and accurately assess and put the emotions aside. There's a terminology that we use where I come from, and it's called ego. And it was said that ego eats God out. It removes God from the equation. And that's because in the moments of ego and in the heated moment of emotions, you can do some things that are unforgivable, that you just cannot come back from. Travis, what is your experience of that? And let me know if this holds true in the areas of finance, trading, etc.
Another one of those you won't find out until you're in it. Trading, surprisingly, is super simple. However, one of the lesser known to the uninitiated, sort of say, because there is sort of like an initiation process that most traders experience when they don't come in with some type of coach or some type of training beforehand. So what happens is like you stated, they get in, and the simplicity, like I said, it's so simple, it'll blow your mind. However, the way the markets, we talked about this manipulation, it's so intricately woven into the fabric of what trading is in the first place that it's very hard. I'm not going to say impossible, but it's built off of natural human instincts. So different tendencies like the ties, the emotional ties to money, and different facets like greed and fear. There are certain price points where they know specifically where to take the price of the stock to where most of the people are going to get out of the trade. And then that common saying that you hear of big bank take little bank comes in, and that's when the larger institutions come in and just swoop up that easy cash. So those emotions are definitely at play in the markets, because the markets themselves are actually relatively simple. It goes up, you click a button, you get out at a certain point, emotions come in, and this is where, like you said, that assessment comes in, where you have to know yourself going into it. So depending on the type of person you are, you might have to put, like you said with the wife, you had to pump the brakes on yourself.
Oh, yeah, all the
You
time.
had to put yourself back in check. So normally it's going to take a spanking. However, if done the correct way, there are mechanisms that can be used that'll kind of put you back in check. The same way you had the discipline to put yourself, to check yourself in that situation. A lot of times we don't, especially in the academy, we don't allow the newer traders to do that because they rely on what we call hopium. As you said, hope is not a strategy. They will hope, oh yeah, it's going not the way I want it to, but it's gonna come back. I hope it's gonna eventually come back. And then what could have been a something recoverable, which could have been something that, as you stated, took 20 years to build, they could lose, let's just say a week of that progress, as opposed to losing the whole 20 years of that progress in, like you say, a matter of minutes.
Did you use the term hopium?
Hopium. It's almost like a drug, because of that tie into the emotions. Most people are very emotional when it comes to money. When we think about it, we see it all over the news. People get killed over $20. So when it comes to these, especially when, as we talked about before, having coordinates and a plan, a lot of times we'll see the outcome. People will see the outcome on the internet. You'll see those large sums that are generated in a very short amount of time. However, the audience or the person that's watching from the screen is not seeing what it took for that individual to get there. They're not seeing, just like in business, all of the different steps that it required for you to get to the point of being profitable and sustainable. That's just not an overnight process. So with that and the emotions that are tied into everything, just having that system, having that routine, there's a whole lot more that goes along to it. Though it's simple in execution, it's the internal work that we often have to look into, as far as where the success and failures are coming from.
Hmm. Interesting, interesting. You're talking my language now. You said it's the internal work that gets you the external results. Now we know that to be evidence based in coaching and speaking and closing and consulting in business. But for it to be the same rule, 20% mechanics, 80% psychology in trading is very insightful. Very insightful. So a couple words come to my mind: discipline, maturity, evolved, being evolved, and having the emotions in check, not being anxious or short-sighted, how do you say, there's a difference between reactive and responsive, and responsibility comes on the back of responsive as opposed to reactive. You can't have a hair trigger temper, right? You have to have. I'm thinking of The Big Short. I'm thinking of movies that I've seen, like The Big Short and things. And I'm very privy and very aware of meltdowns, around, financial meltdowns, when everything goes down, when everything like tanks out. That's kind of when the public hears about it. But I've worked before around Wall Street, and I've seen a lot of the energy where the bull is, right? Literally, like where the bull and the little girl is, the iron statues. Like I worked down in that area. So I've gone around those areas, Bowery Avenue in New York City, Wall Street, and I've seen the temperaments. So when we talk about, well, when we come back, not this moment, but when we come back from the break, I want to talk for a moment about the personality traits, the characteristics, the inner being. What constitutes a successful trader? What constitutes a successful business owner? And what constitutes a successful person in life as well as business? So we'll be right back, guys. Get your notes, pens, and share this out, guys. Let me say that first. Share this out so by the time we come back to the break, some of your friends are on here, because I believe that it takes a team. I believe that it takes a team to be successful. I do not think that you can do it by yourself. And we'll talk to Travis about this as well. I don't think that you can have success in a silo. Let's grow. The reason why I did this and what I do is help leaders to become brands and brand themselves. You train people how to treat you by how you treat yourself. I teach authenticity marketing. If people can take advantage of you, they will in your personal or professional existence.
My biggest takeaway just from day one is you are the brand. I would recommend it to anybody that's really looking to build a personal brand.
Just the brand in general has changed my life. I've grown so much since I've been a part of this.
I see myself in what he does, and I believe in it just as much as I believe in myself.
Business is like a game of chess. It's not checkers. If you don't know how to lead with a personal brand, then you're losing the battle.
Everything about Shaan's talk was fantastic. I mean, I got so much from it.
So he was really bringing fire and passion and just love and spirit to let everybody else know how do you become a leader amongst the leaders.
You hold the key in your hand. There is more power in this phone than there was that took the first man to the moon.
His energy, his dynamic information, gave a really great presentation.
I didn't ask for any money. I didn't have an offer. I had a heart to help people and meet them where they were at and find their need and fulfill it.
Shaan is the bomb.
I don't talk theory, I don't talk hyperbole, I don't talk opinion. Nothing I talk is anything but evidence-based.
During the G Circle retreat in Atlanta, I had the pleasure and the honor of listening to Mr. Shaan Rais. He will not only impact your organization, but he will elevate your team to another level.
When you change you, when you put you into the equation, the whole system is different. I guarantee you, you got the right thing. You are the right person. If you can present yourself in the best way possible, there's no negotiation.
His energy is infectious, and I have so many takeaways from the presentation that I can't wait to get started and implement them today to see the result.
So when you're young, mommy tells you to play nice. Play nice, Timmy. Let all of the other kids play too. But in business, it's not about playing nice. In business, it's about winning. It's about adding multiple zeros to your revenue. Now, of course, your staff wins. And when you win, other people win. However, when it comes to competition, you absolutely must dominate. You can't play for participation, and you can't play just to get along or just to get by, because business is serious. Business will help you to change the world, or the world will change you. Your people will either win or your people will lose based on your level of leadership, what you're willing to do, what you're willing to sacrifice, and how much you know about dominating. All right. So let's talk about the domination piece. Let's talk about one of my favorite topics, right? Dominating in business, not playing for participation, because there are no awards given for participation except in kindergarten and grade school. And I remember when there wasn't. I remember when you actually had to win. So let me talk to you about that for a moment before we go into the success in a silo situation. How important is it for you to be able to manage your aggression, but to be aggressive in trading? Is it safe to be passive in trading, or is it more important to be with a measure of aggression and assertiveness in trading?
That's a phenomenal question, and it is twofold. That huge loss that I took early on in a previous business venture was due to passivity. That was me wanting to take the burden or the task of learning to trade and put that in someone else's hands. I just said, here, I
Hold
got
on.
the money.
I'm sorry. We got to draw an underline under that. We got to draw an underline under that, because I always say domination, and you have to dominate and be aggressive and be assertive. And I get some backlash for that, right? I get some backlash for that. People say, Shaan, you're intimidating. You're too much. You got too much edge. You're hurting people. They're like, be more passive, be more calm, be more relaxed. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. So hold on. Can you just repeat what you said, please, for the people down the block and around the corner? For the people coming on later, hashtag replay squad.
Yes. So take my pain and use it for your gain, because that's exactly what Shaan is talking about here. So in that venture, I took the passive approach. I had the money, they had the skill set, and I wanted to invest my money with them to grow it for me. So everything was fine on a small level, talking 3 digits. Everything was fine. I had no issues. That was just to pilot the system, so to say, just to test out the withdrawal system. I had absolutely no kinks. Got my money within the week, and it's in crypto. So anyone that's dealt with crypto know that there's some obstacles that can get in the way as far as the movement of money in those realms. So got the money back relatively quickly, but it wasn't until the large investments, the 4 and 5 figure investments, were made passively, that then the complications and, oh, we don't know where the money went and so on and so forth began to come into it. So fast forward a couple years, that was where, as you say, domination set in, because after losing 7 figures, that's an emotional roller coaster in and of itself. So with that was where we go to the 4 Ds that you talk about. So I know that's your expertise, but that deciding, making a decision. So from that point onward, I vowed not only to myself, but to my family, that I would learn how to trade for myself, and I would never put myself under that set of circumstances ever again.
I've got a lot here. I've got a lot here. You're giving me a lot. One of the thoughts that comes to mind is that it doesn't make a difference what business you're in, because it appears to be a mindset thing, whether it's trading, whether it's technology, whether it's business, whether it's your relationship, whether it's your health, whether it's moving up in your occupation. It sounds like a mindset thing. And we have a training called Money Mind versus Monkey Mind. Monkey Mind wants to play. Monkey Mind thinks everything is a game. Monkey Mind says money doesn't grow on trees, we have to conserve it. Monkey Mind says play it safe. Money Mind says dominate. Money Mind adheres to the reality, not the hopium, as you say, right? So in reality, people have jobs burning money, removing it from circulation. There's no limitation on capital. In the real world, people make your yearly income monthly, monthly income weekly, and weekly income daily. And in some instances, they make a 10x multiple of your annual salary daily. And how does that happen? It happens with the 4D framework. It happens by making a decision. No business, no trade, no organization. This country could not have been founded without people who made a sound, resolute decision. And then they had the discipline not to pull out when things got rough, right? When the market starts to look funny, it doesn't mean run. It doesn't mean cut and run, play it safe. No, it means hold fast, hold to the decision. Remember why you started in the first place. Have the discipline to allow it to develop, to allow it to yield fruit. So it's probably around the same analogy that I use all the time about the little guy who plants the seed, goes to school, and then comes back and digs it up to see if it grew yet. Sometimes you got to leave it alone. Sometimes you got to drop the phone. So my wife asked me about a detox of the mind yesterday. Said, Shaan, how would you help people to detox their mind? Because I'm always talking about a physical detox, and we eat a certain kind of way, work out a certain kind of way, hydrate a certain kind of way. So she was like, how would you tell people to detox their mind? And I said, that's super interesting. I love the question. I said, what I would do first is put them somewhere where it's a remote island and remove all technological inputs. Remove the phone, remove the computer, so that you can't be manipulated from outside forces. So that everything that comes to you comes from internal as opposed to external. You don't see the news and feel a certain kind of way. You don't read the paper, feel a certain kind of way. You don't look at the trade and feel a certain kind of way. But you remember why you decided, you make your decisions, and then you leave with the discipline and you cut off, like we always say, to make a decision means to make an incision and to cut off from all other alternatives. Because we have a firefly or a fruit fly, I'll say a fruit fly mentality over here. It's like we call it the goldfish mentality, 3-second mentality, where people are zip, 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 zip. They can't make a decision and sit long enough for anything to matriculate or anything to develop, right? But when you allow something to develop, so going through this 4D framework, decide, discipline, development, and then domination. A lot of people want to dominate first, but they haven't made a decision yet. And that's why you see them post one time and they're doing this, then post another time and they're doing that. And then they get, how do they say, without a plan? Mike Tyson says everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face, right? So you make a plan, you get punched in the face, and then you say, well, I'm not fighting anymore. I'm going to golf. I'm going to play it safe. I'm going to go golfing because that's a non-contact sport. But then you find out the mechanics and the psychology that it takes to be a winner in golf. You thought Tiger Woods was playing a game. No, Tiger Woods is a scientist and a mathematician. He's an astronaut. He's a technician. He's a specialist of the finest sort. And it's mentality again. It's the discipline again. It's making a decision again. So they get on the golf course. They buy all this stuff, the putts. They buy all the putter. They rent out the green. They go there and they're like, oh my God, it's hot. You got to dress a certain kind of way. They're like, it's hot, Travis. And there's no water. And there's these little carts. And you got to measure. And it's not just swinging. I promise you, if you swing a golf club the way you swing a baseball bat, you're going to hurt yourself. And that's around the time when they say, you know what, I've had enough of this. I'm going to do something else. And then I'm going to do something else. And then I'm going to do something else. And what happens is you guys don't have anything at all in play. Nothing. Nothing that you can scale. Nothing. Either. Because of lack of discipline. So whether you're in business, whether you're doing trading, whether you're building your repertoire in an organization, your reputation, your personal brand in an organization, whether you're trying to have a long-term relationship, all of these things require 4D framework. You must make a decision. You must have discipline. You must give it time to develop. And then, and only then, will you be able to be in a situation of domination and mastery. That's it. You know, there's a link on the bottom of the screen. That's for Branded Like a Leader. So that's where everybody comes through. Everybody comes through the same door first. System, like Travis said. Travis went through Branded Like a Leader. Bobby went through Branded Like a Leader. All of the clients that we have go through Branded Like a Leader to get their entry point. And if they have the discipline to follow the decision, then they progress into higher levels of competence and business. And this is how people end up on the Breakfast with the Brand. This is how people end up in a successful space. And I want to talk to you for a moment, and I want to hear you because I heard you say something about the academy. And I wrote down something about success in a silo. I don't believe that success in a silo is a thing. I don't think that you can be phenomenal in isolation. I believe that you become successful and you make a difference in the lives of people through relationship building, through communication, and through associations. So talk to me about how important in trading it is to get out of the closet and get into a community.
Well, I'd like to ask you a question first.
Uh-oh. Okay.
I ask you a question. How many stocks do you think there are? How many companies do you think there are?
How many stock companies?
Yes.
I would probably say thousands.
Exactly.
To have a small number. Thousands, probably millions.
So with that, that's answering the question. So as one person, this success in a silo mentality or this concept, you can't truly have it because you're only one person and you can only do so much yourself. So with that, the community aspect comes in. So instead of just having my one pair of eyes or just having two pair of eyes, what mine and yours, having a community that is taught the same principles, taught the same concepts, shown what to look for to find, to be able to distinguish the devil in the details as well as where God is in the details, and being able to decipher the two, because there is a lot of manipulation that takes place in the market, and to be able to identify where those things are. When you have the community, when you have the tribe, when you have that group, that's where the saying the strength in numbers comes in. So with that, though I might be able to look at 100 charts, you might be able to look at 100 charts. Together, we've looked at a couple hundred, and then we've been able to identify, as we stated before, about the limited resources. So when you come into this, you want to have limited resources. I mean, you want to have a set of goals, a set of coordinates, if you will, coming into this. And then it's going to be the matter of the internal person that's coming to trade, as those 4Ds that you talked about. And we're not going to get to the domination piece until further on. But first, they have to make that decision. And what I've found in most communities, in the communities that I've been a part of, and I've watched this happen so many times, is that the decision is very fickle. They will act as though they've made a decision. However, in the heat of the moment, when things get hard, when things get tough, as you talked about, as the person that bounces around from boxing to golf, etc., 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 it's not that the things don't work. It's that the thing within that person is not working. So until we sit down and have that conversation, we can't really reach the levels that we want to, not just in the realm of trading. This is really holistic. It reaches far beyond trading, far beyond any profession. This is going to affect life.
Guys, I hope you're paying attention. I really do. I hope you're paying attention, because what we found to be true in boxing or in business, I think Travis is saying it's the same thing in trading and in financial accumulation and mastery. Now, I've related it to life and communication. It's really life. These are rules. So I wrote a book called The 7 Prerequisites to Success. The 7 Prerequisites to Success. And chapter number 4 is a paradigm shift. Upon the paradigm shift, that's when you make a decision. You must make a decision. Everything phenomenal started with the decision. You're here, like you're watching this and you're here because of a decision. Not just because of the decision that your parents made, but a deeper decision that they made to bring you here. Like, there's levels to decision making, right, Travis? There's levels to decision making. One decision is, okay, I'm going to get into this trade. I'm going to get into the market. The next level of decision, I'm going to stay in the market when things look bad. I'm going to have the discipline. And then I'm going to learn what it takes. That's different. A lot of people want to get into business. It looks good on the front end, doesn't it? Looks real sweet on the front end. A lot of people making a lot of money. But if you don't learn the parameters, if you don't learn the mechanics, if you don't learn that 20%, if you don't learn that, you understand, like if you don't understand what it really, the details that God and the devil both exist in, then you're toast. You're going to fail at every single thing that you ever decide to do. So when I say decision, I mean a resolved decision, a final decision, a decision without alternative. And that's where the term burn the boats come in. So I know we were supposed to do another break, but I think this is getting a little bit meaty and I don't really want to leave it before we go. We got about 6 minutes to go, right? Because we decided to keep this down to an hour. That's a decision. So we're going to follow the decision, follow the plan. We're going to stay disciplined and allow it to develop around the plan so we can dominate in the space that we're in. This relates to everything, large and small. No, no exceptions to the rule will be allowed. There's a saying, ignorance to the law is no excuse. Ignorance to the law is no excuse. And this happens in driving. You know, you'll be driving, you'll get pulled over. The police will say that you were doing a 60 and a 50. And you say, oh, I didn't notice it. Where I come from, it's always, And they're like, oh, okay, no problem at all. Here's your ticket, sir. Kindly go about your way. Because ignorance of the law is no excuse. Trust me, I've parked so many times. I'll be visiting somewhere, I'll park somewhere, and then I'll come back down, I have a ticket. And I'll go to court, and it's like, ignorance of the law is no excuse. And it's like, I was unaware. Okay, well, if you're unaware, great. Take this ticket, pay this penalty, now you're aware. How does that relate to trading?
It's almost like self-sabotage if someone chooses not to. So what's going to happen? Most likely, this is without a coach. What's going to happen is they're going to get in, they're going to get beat up. That's that 80-20. Only 20% are succeeding, and that's the numbers being generous. It's more like 99-1. So with that, you're going to get beat up, And if you aren't given a system, which is, I liken it to like a triage. You have to go in and assess. So when you take these losses, and this is just for someone that wants to, that you know, most people have some type of investment out there. When you take that loss, you're going to want to analyze it. And then with that analysis, make sure you're not giving yourself any excuse. Like really sitting down and asking proactive questions, not those questions that are gonna end that are dead end. Asking questions like, what could I have done better? What did I learn from this situation? What was going through my mind at the time? I mean, like really diving into what happened, and only then can we even attempt to come and approach it from a different angle the next day or the next session. And that's if you haven't bled out by making a bad decision, by not following the discipline or whatever the goal that was set was initially. So a lot of times what I've come to see in many of these communities is it still goes back to those 4 Ds. There's some kind of breakdown before they even get to the domination piece. And unfortunately, it's a very expensive lesson to learn because it literally costs you every time you make that mistake.
You know, I'll even kind of add on to what Travis just said by saying that I think it begins a lot of times in the initial stages. I don't even think people really get to the discipline piece because they haven't made the decision yet. I see so many people make a half-hearted decision when they say something like, I'll try this. I'll see how it goes. Maybe it'll work. What are your thoughts on the experimentation mindset where a person is like, you know, half of the toe in the water, touching the water, not committed, haven't made a decision, you know, not really 100% committed and waiting for the bad thing to happen so they can pull out? Tell me about that before we go to just close the whole show, because I think that's the part where people fail the most. It's not in the discipline. It's not in the development. It's in the decision.
If they're not going to be fine with that decision, they might as well go with the alternative, more painful decision. And that's going to be to just face your family, let them know that you're letting them down. That you're going to go back to whatever it is that you were doing before because it's more comfortable, and that you're not willing to do what it takes to take your family to the other side.
Oh, man, that's amazing. That's a rough end. What do they call this? They call this hump day, right? Whew. Get ready, guys. I tried to be nice, but Travis had to come and hurt you guys. Okay, great. We'll be right back. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place. This is the Breakfast with the Brand. I am Shaan Rais, co-host Travis Klein. Let's grow.
I said Shaan Rais. I'm proud. That's Shaan Rais. Leadership is not the brand they made for us.
Listen, he brought fire, heat. He didn't hold back.
20 years down the line, what I could sell, why not serve first? Service over salary. Branding like a leader closes the gap for people who want branding. Speaking like a leader closes the gap for people who are nervous about speaking. If Steve Jobs would have speculated, we wouldn't have Apple. He changed lives. He helped people open up their business and start their business. We are the brand. Some people say, Shaan, should I quit my job? Mentally, yes.
As a speaker too, to be able to learn from him and watch him and you know, game respects game. And I want to have that much game someday.
The right client, pay $500,000 for what you do. You have to be bold in your beliefs.
He has been an amazing asset to this event and a pleasure to work with. Very captivating, collaborative, worked very well with the audience.
I want to help you. Put a 0 behind your number, right?
The session was great. How he is online, virtually, he is even more phenomenal in person.
Be the face of change that you want to see. Stop asking questions and start giving demands.
The entire team has just been absolutely incredible. They are a joy to work with. They go above and beyond.
Give yourself a round of applause. Yes, yes, yes. It's very important that you know yourself to the highest degree possible, because it's through knowing ourselves that we're able to know other people. You are the most important person in the room, and the better that you know yourself, the better that you're able to communicate to others. So you're not only playing the game knowing who you are, but you're also playing the game knowing who everyone else is, so that you're not playing blind.
He's extremely engaging with people. He has a fantastic smile, and he's just very high energy person.
This is called leadership development. So we have to be independently knowledgeable and considerate to know who we are, so we can more effectively know who other people are. As the leader, it's your responsibility to allocate resources in the right places. If you don't know how to communicate effectively, you're losing the battle. When I think of brand you, I think of being your best self, your most authentic. The reason why we were able to crush business, absolutely dominate in business without having the marketing list, without having the email huge list, without having the Facebook ads and the advertising budget, without knowing the algorithm. The reason we were able to do this is because I branded myself. I told my authentic story, and I was comfortable in my skin. Why? Because it was that time in the world where everything was shifting. It was 2020, March. So you remember what happened during that time. It was like the world was coming to an end. So you didn't have anything to hold back. So I chose to give everything that I had and be everything that I am. And because I was that, because I branded me, because I was authentic, everything shifted. And people wanted more. And they wanted to know more about me and how they could become more comfortable in their skin. Listen, guys, when you brand you and not what you do, you're gonna add a 0 to the world, but you'll also add a 0 to your revenue. Let's grow.